and welcome to the LEC Week 2 Day 1 live from the Riot Games Arena in Berlin, Germany, as we see SK Gaming and a cosplayed BDS ready to take on the fight here in the... I love Nuke's attitude, honestly.
Yeah.
Exactly what he's doing.
Shaco mid-win.
Shaco impressions.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw Shaco in the LCS, why not here? I'm Laure, and I will be joined by the return of Broxa and Dagdaddy. I said it, you know I will.
Oh, wow.
How are you doing, guys?
We're going down.
I'm good now. I mean, look, it's weird to be back on the AD. I mean, 2 weeks in a row now I've been here with you guys. It's been fun. Yeah.
Happy to be back as well.
Happy
It's
to
going to
be
be an
back.
exciting day, I hope.
I hope. I mean, it was an exciting week 1. Let's recap a bit what happened here, because guys, any upsets, any surprises when you look at the standings as they look now, I do feel like G2 Esports at the top and Rogue at the bottom may have been what people expected, but what's about the rest?
Well, I'm surprised that Common Corp is 1-2, not based off of what we saw in the window, but based off of how well they actually played last week. I think they might as well have been 3-0. They had some good games overall.
I think it's also amazing to see Team Vitality up there. I mean, they had a really good start to day 1 and day 2, where they were able to get a ton of early aggression, but there was a little bit of, the Smolder abusing going on, so I don't know how much I can really take that under wraps,
So teams, we saw how they performed, but something else took over in the LEC last week. I feel something cute-shaped but deadly in form, as we have a new dragon on the Rift, guys. Smolder is here. Smolder took the LEC. I feel it was one of the most champions, the most big champions that we had, and the one with the highest success rate. Broxa, what's up?
Oh! You gotta be kidding me. This is an emergency. I can't take it anymore.
Okay.
Like, why? Just why? I'm so tired of this champion. I see it in solo queue every game. Now I come here. I think I can finally have peace. We'll put this up here.
I
just want to
didn't
go home.
think it was that
No, but
bad.
look at the week 1 clips. Just look. How is this balanced? Who is going around saying AD carry is a weak role? It is so broken. I'm so done. Like, I can't. Just look at it. Look at it, Doctor. How is this reasonable?
I mean, it's absolutely disgusting, I'm not going to lie. The fact you get this much AoE in a team fight, and you get an execute, and you get an ult that just lets you push waves 24/7 from mid lane, so no one can get a mid lane tower to save their lives, is absolutely disgusting. I'm so fed up with this champ, and it's only week 2.
But I thought people liked Smolder. I mean, we even saw some teams lose with Smolder. What do we think about this team?
It's impressive. It's a miracle. Honestly, it's a Christmas miracle when you're able to lose with this champion.
When you look at this champion and you see the amount of damage that he deals, how it scales, what is problematic with it, Broxa? What is the biggest issue with Smolder?
Everything. Like, pretty much everything. Like,
Champion design
I just
issue.
don't understand. Like, in pro play especially, it takes 20 minutes for you to get to 225 stacks.
Okay.
It's literally a Kale or a Cassy on absolute steroids. All you have to do is go even, survive 20 minutes, and then Smolder, this disgusting creature, is just so obnoxious. It's unreal.
We have solutions, though.
Do we?
Do we? But I'm asking you. There's
Just get rid of it. Install it. Get rid of it. I don't want to see this in my game anymore. It's disgusting.
This week, do we think it's going to be enough? That doesn't seem to.
No, I don't think so. I mean, look, the E is okay, cool, we'll add a little bit of problems, but as you say, the Q gives so much AoE. Yes, the mom nerf is a little bit of an issue, or help, but you're still going to be able to clear waves 24/7 as soon as you get to like 20 minutes into the game. Makes it impossible to take towers. He just gets to scale infinitely. It's such a disgustingly broken champion.
It feels like there's no answer here, because usually you can nerf some champions, they're going to be more viable, more balanced, but we saw in the LCK, for instance, they were playing Senna against Moulder, they were playing Varus against Moulder. We even saw G2 try Kog'Maw, which I think is a good alternative. Broxa, anything we think is doable against this champion this week?
I'm going to tell you what to do.
Okay.
Ban it! Ban the champion!
Get rid of it!
Ban
Get rid of it!
champion right now!
Out of here!
Okay.
Not gonna happen. They cannot play against it. They're just
get rid
gonna
of
win.
it. I'm so sick of it.
Production can get rid of this Moulder, please. We have a really aggressive response from the casters.
So
Moving on onto some positives, maybe. Let's talk about Cassy. You guys said a glimpse of hope, as we saw last week. More aggression, but maybe did not translate into the result we thought they would have, Broxa.
I think Bo has seen a lot of Smolders on the screen. He's so aggressive, it's crazy. Like, he has so much anger to get out of his system. He's just going out at the sides of plays constantly. And I really love the fact that everybody on his team is just following him confidently. They are really on the same page. They're playing so smart. I think they just gotta find the stop button a bit, tone it down a little bit, find the balance, and they can be a really good team.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's been really cool to see how Bo is able to find these like small timing windows that he can punish, especially when you look at like, how do you want to try and play around an objective like Dragon or avoid grubs and working to get targets into position there. But it definitely feels like once you get past the 15, 20-minute mark, they really do struggle to figure out how they want to play the game. When Bo is less of decisiveness, and it kind of becomes more of like, hey, how do we push sideways, or where is Targamas positioned? And sometimes those individual mistakes come back to bite them.
I do think it makes sense though that they would struggle in mid-game because they didn't find success in Winter, and usually things that are going to learn how to work together are going to have issues in mid-game because, again, they have not been used to winning. So from what we saw in Winter from Cassy to what they showed last week, do you think they had reasons to stick together and to work on the bases they had, Roxa?
I think so, because if you can play this dominant and confident in the early game, and if they can keep playing in the same way, it's going to be pretty easy for them to fix their mid-game problems, I believe. Like, sure, if you lose every early game, it's pretty hard to get to the point of practicing mid-game. But now, once they start gelling for real, I'm sure they're going to be fine.
They have a good test coming out today and this week in general. Let's take a look at Heretics though, because I was talking about stability. Heretics, on the other hand, try to do some roster changes, 2 new players to the lineup. When you're going to get a player like Trimby, Dagda, what do you expect, and did he deliver so far?
I think Trimby is bringing what Trimby does best to Heretics, which is, hey, I'm going to start to open up the map a lot more. I'm going to roam a lot more than, say, what Kaiser did before. I'm going to try and link with Jankos in the early stages. I think he's been doing that relatively well. And then we bring what he brought to Rogue, what he brought to Fnatic, which is, I'm going to heavily overload a side lane and make this play work. But I do think there are some things that are lacking with Trimby as well.
I think this is a perfect example, by the way. Like, FLICKR is monster strong, playing Smolder. Trimby just instantly engages. FLICKR burns everything to try to follow him, gets caught out, and it doesn't work. But here, it's another example of how it's actually paying off. Wonder TPs instantly the moment Trimby engages. And before Oscarinin can even finish his TP on Renekton, the fight is pretty much over. So we saw a moment where it didn't go so well, where Trimby was over eager and went too far, not taking FLICKR into consideration. But here an example of where they're actually on the same page and where it works out really nicely. And I think even throughout the first week, if you compare Trimby in the first game to the third game, he looked like an entirely different player. And I think part of that is just getting on the same page with his team.
Yeah, and you can see that trust that's being built, right? Because like one of the things that I think has always been the strong point of a Trimby team is, hey, we're going to push out mid, we're going to push out bot, and then we're just going to shift entirely across the map. So we can catch someone who's pushing out on top side, or even reverse and catch someone who's pushing on bot. And I think this is something that Trimby does exceptionally well. And you can see that that has become more and more of the kind of playbook that we get to see from Heretics in that mid to late game scenario.
I do think it makes sense to let them, I don't know, find their groove with these new players, but there's only 3 weeks. We're going to be halfway through regular season by the end of this week. Do we think that they're progressing fast enough?
I think so. I think they're starting to get it together. I think the team fighting will be a little bit more of an issue, but I think if you can still go for these plays where you kind of bypass that team fight through picks, I think it can work out well.
I think the biggest challenge for them is going to be to allow FLICKR and the newcomer Sviru to have a voice, because the way they play team fights, you can see from the outside that everybody's just trying to follow Jankos and Trimby, but sometimes if the AD carry's position is not taken into consideration, it doesn't matter that FLICKR is getting further a game if he can't follow or if he gets immediately flanked by the enemy frontliners. You have to play around him, you set him up for success, you play the game in mid and late the way he wants, and I think you'll win a lot of games.
But he got Smolder, so...
Yeah. We don't talk about this. We said ban Smolder. Hopefully we don't see the champion more today. We'll see. They have a big task facing off against G2 later today. But before that, Game 1, SK, BDS. And before we jump into the action of Game 1, Ginny sat down with Exakick. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Laure. Welcome, guys. We're joined with Exakick from SK. Thank you for taking the time to join us here for the interview ahead of your matchup against BDS. So we're talking on the desk, a couple of points that we're just exploring. But first of all, I want to ask you about your week 1, your performance individually, how you're feeling coming into week 2 as well.
I think my first game was pretty bad, individually at least. It was against MDK, right? I think my tempo usage, blah, blah, my recalls were really, really bad. So I think they had a pretty free game, I think, against us. And then I think we all stepped up against, it was Heretics, I think. Even though it was still a bit like scared gameplay, I'd say. So then we went 1-1, and I think like the third game versus Vitality, they gave us a pretty like aggressive draft, I'd say, and they had like 3 scaling lanes and like Poppy into the Kalista, and I think we snowballed pretty well. I think that was like the best game we ever played, even like counting scrims. So I think the coaches were pretty happy this time. And now leading into BDS, I think I'm pretty confident in my abilities to play well individually, and I think as a team we kind of found ourselves during this week of practice. So yeah, I'm pretty confident.
It's actually interesting that you bring up your game against BDS and how you performed week 1 and potentially warming up into that. Because when we were looking at BDS particularly, it felt like that week 1, it wasn't the BDS that we're necessarily used to seeing. Does that make you feel more comfortable as well coming into this?
Not particularly, because I think they have a very good coaching staff. I think they got probably flamed after this weekend, and I think they probably put in the hours during practice. So I wouldn't take them like as an easy opponent. I think they are still very good players. I think the ice is very good individually. So I'm just very excited to see how they perform against us.
Okay, so you gotta stay calm and confident at the same time. But looking as well at your performance as at SK in general, a lot of talk in terms of doing well in winter split and in spring split potentially not doing so well. So talk us through that. Do you still think that's the case? Do you think this year, you know, new year, new SK?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of noticed as well that it's probably a tendency that I have as well, more than just SK. Like I perform decently during the first weeks, not especially summer, but like for example, week 1 I play decently, and then I play probably worse. I don't think it's like slacking or something. I just think I should just try to not get too confident, and I stick to the basics and like still use my brain to play the game. So yeah, I hope that this decent week 1 that we had will not lead us to play too cocky in the week 2 and 3. I think that's the most important right now.
You're talking about using your brain to play the game. How do you feel about Smolder? Do you feel like that requires brain cells or just counting to 225?
I think the champ is strong if the enemy team is not punishing you. I don't think the champ is particularly strong in lane. I think it's pretty useless, to be honest. I mean, you're ADC, so you probably know as well. Like,
yeah.
it doesn't have much agency, I think, unless you're a better player than the enemy ADC, or if enemy team doesn't punish you. But I think once it reaches the 225, and it's not like too late or you're not too behind, I think it's like the team fights 5v5 front to back are gonna be very hard. So I think it's like weak champion early, and I mean, if you pilot it well, it can look strong, but I don't think it's like that OP. And also, I think on this week, we play on Hotfix Moulder with the ultimate. So I think, like for example, I'm thinking about the G2 versus Cassy game where Hans was perma-ulting mid waves, like when there is a threat. I think they gave like 30 seconds more, 20, I don't remember, to the Smolder ult on first rank. So I think this capacity of just like Miss Fortune ultimate wave is going to be way weaker. So yeah, I'm excited to see how it is.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your insight. I appreciate it. And bon chance on your game later today.
Merci.
And let's throw it back to the casters.
Thank you very much, Janiro and X-Kick. Yeah, Smolder nerfs coming in. You heard from the analyst desk earlier that they don't believe that it'll be sufficient. We have no emergency Smolder button. But I'm Dracos, that's Aragon. The emergency Smolder button is that we hope, as highlighted there, that the ultimate cooldown is enough that people can finally punish this champion. Or the ban button. Teams, if you want to, you know, give us.
A little bit worried. Seemingly a little bit confident in the fact that they can maybe win the early game against Smolder, so we'll be left open.
That's, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, we understand conceptually that it is possible to, you know, hit hard and fast enough that Smolder never gets the time to scale and you can win a game. But it's like, historically, if you're not feeling 100% in that game plan, maybe you could ban it and you could just outscale them, which, you know, I don't like. I like teams that are willing to push the envelope a little bit, but SK last split pushed the envelope a lot. You know, they were busting out Solution. Nami, they were really trying to be a team that could